Welcome to this edition of Oxford News This Week. What can $35 million buy? In our Behind the Lens segment, we take a trip back to 1899. And in our last story, a game that means so much more. That and more on this special edition of Oxford News This Week. Welcome back to Oxford News This Week. McLaren Oakland will be breaking ground in the later part of this month on an extensive $35 million renovation in the hospital at Oxford Township's healthcare campus on Lapeer Road. The expansion project, highlighted by the addition of a freestanding emergency department, as well as providing more treatment space to increase service and offerings. Construction scheduled to be completed by the fall of 2024, with the facility offices remaining open and accepting patients during the renovation. The renovation of the McLaren Oakland Oxford campus will be to modernize the existing facility while also increasing square footage to allow additional services, bolstering the location offerings to provide convenient access to the specialty service alongside the existing primary care facility. McLaren Oakland operates a level 2 trauma center and an emergency department at its main campus in Pontiac. It also provides the village of Clarkston with emergency services at the McLaren Clarkston campus, similar to the freestanding ER that will stand in Oxford. Following examination and stabilization, patients in Clarkston and Oxford will then be quickly transported to the McLaren Oakland facility in Pontiac. Again, the project represents a $35 million investment. Once it is completed, McLaren will demolish the existing one-story building, which has actually been in Oxford since 1980. The Oakland County Sheriff's Substation in Oxford Township has a new detective. Her name is Erin Janes. She recently was promoted to her first assignment. Detective Janes has been with the Oakland County Sheriff's Office since December of 2018. She spent 2 years working at the county jail, followed by 2 years patrolling the roads in neighboring Orion Township. Detective Janes was born and raised in Rochester Hills. She graduated from Stony Creek High School in 2010. Her family includes attorneys and a judge. She is the first law enforcement officer in her family. Detective Jane enjoys trail riding, competing on 3-day events, which involves 3 equestrian disciplines: dressage, cross country, and slow jumping. Welcome to Oxford, Detective. On Tuesday morning, the members of the Oakland County Sheriff's Office visited the Oxford Senior Center to participate in the Coffee and Conversation series sponsored by the Oxford Township Parks and Rec. Lieutenant Scott Peterson, the commander of the Oxford Township Substation, was joined by Sergeant Rick Meza and Detective Reynolds Grant. The officers and residents enjoyed a casual, informative discussion that touched upon a variety of community issues in the community. In 2022, the Oakland County Sheriff's Office Oxford Township Substation achieved the highest clearance rate at 79.65% of the county. 12 substations of the 231 criminal cases handled by the substation last year, 184 were case closed. The Oxford Township Substation 2022 clearance rate represents 5.21%, an increase over the 2021 rate. At the April meeting of the Oxford Village Council, the board heard updates concerning 2 ongoing projects taking place in the developer Dave Weckl Valley Building and Repair, gave an update on the PUD project renovations at the 32 East Burdick location. The PUD project involves a 3-story, 60-foot by 60-foot structure, with the top floor being used for residential condominiums.
We've made a lot of progress since last week, particularly on the parking lot. Its subgrade is ready. They're doing the final grade for stone, and the sidewalks and curb and gutter. I expect that will be done within a week and a half, and ready for concrete. And then we'll let it set for a little while, get the dumpster pad put in, get the Edison poles moved around, and then put the stone and asphalt, a base coat of asphalt. On the building itself, you haven't been able to see very much because most of the work's been done on the inside. But Thursday, our siding for the towers is being delivered. So that should only take us a week and we'll have both the towers done and just waiting for our entry doors.
The Oxford Village Council also heard from Kelly Westbrook, DDA Executive Director, who updated the council on the latest grant funds that have been applied to beautification to downtown Oxford.
So we had a really great meeting for our projects, our placemaking projects that we received the grants on this past year. So Joe was part of that meeting today. We had, I think a group of 10, maybe different contractors out. We're gonna start in about 2 weeks behind the NAPS quadrant there. And that's all gonna be torn up in about 2 days and everything, all new pavement laid. We're gonna have a fireplace out there with seating, lighting is gonna go up, new archways in that area. And then the T-Mobile project behind Victoria's is probably gonna take place a little closer to fall. So that was just nice to hear that it's all gonna be starting. The mural actually will be started on Thursday. Nick Cotton's flying back into town for that.
While discussing downtown Oxford exterior work, Councilmember Maureen Helmuth questioned the lack of bright colors on the murals around the village.
Our murals.
Yeah.
We have two. I don't want to say this is something. They're not joyful. They don't have a lot of color. I mean, do we have a theme? Is that what we're doing?
We do, yeah. So we really tried, the design committee works on our murals and the design. We go back and forth for months, also, talking with Joe in the village. But we really felt like we needed to preserve the historic nature of the downtown instead of having really bright colors. We really wanted to go with something more of those muted tones. And that way, we can stay with our buildings that are very historic as well.
It's just my opinion. This is one person.
And I think, that is something that we do talk about in design committee and we talk about as a board. We know that we're never gonna please everybody. We know that there are some people that would like more color. We didn't wanna do a disservice to the historic nature of our downtown. And that's really where we came to kind of just land on that. I don't want anything that screams and takes away from the buildings downtown.
The next scheduled meeting for the Oxford Village Council will be coming up on Tuesday, May 9th. That'll be at 7 o'clock in the evening. It's getting closer. Save the date. The new Davis Family Farmers Market on the Seymour Lake Park will kick off the inaugural season with a ribbon cutting. That's coming real soon, 9 a.m. on Saturday morning, May 13th. The 4,000 square foot market will be open every Saturday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. through the end of October. Come and join the fun. Enjoy the wonderful community asset that will now open in May. And in our Behind the Lens segment from the Oxford Museum, courtesy of Rod Charles as he emailed that in, we take a look in Oxford downtown in 1899. We will title this, "It's Getting Busy Downtown." If you have a picture or a snap, you can send it to us via email or our Facebook page. Maybe you'll see your picture or snap on the Behind the Lens series. Up and coming, Dave Kenny will have Auto Talk and Science in the News. Again, you are watching Oxford News This Week on Oxford Community Television.
Canine Stray Rescue does just that. Rescue stray dogs for new families. But they need your help. Become a volunteer at Canine Stray Rescue League of Michigan. Take dogs for walks, help them socialize with others, and help them get adopted. Fill out an application and help a family add a new member today.
Catch us anytime on YouTube. Go to Oxford Community Television YouTube.
Welcome to this edition of Auto Talk. I'm Dave Kenny, and these stories are taken from Automotive News. General Motors will discontinue the Chevrolet Bolt at the end of this year as it focuses on its new generation of electric vehicles, CEO Mary Barra said on April 25th. The automaker plans to build electric versions of the Chevrolet Silverado and GMC Sierra at the Bolt plant in Orion Township. Employment at the plant will triple in 2024 when it reopens after a $4 billion overhaul, Barra said on GM's first quarter earnings call. The Bolt, introduced in 2016, uses GM's previous generation battery technology. The Silverado, Sierra, and other upcoming EVs are built on the Ultium battery platform that allows for greater range and power. GM on April 25th said it has formed a joint venture with Samsung SDI to build a $3 billion battery plant in the U.S. that will open in 2026. The company didn't identify the location of the plant, which would be GM's fourth Ultium plant in the U.S. GM has sold more than 161,000 Bolts in the U.S., and the nameplate began as a hatchback and expanded to include a larger crossover called the Bolt EUV in 2021. Analysts have been expecting the vehicles to eventually make way for the newer EVs. The size of the Bolt itself isn't a popular size with the American consumer. It's a little too small, Sam Fiorani, Vice President of Global Vehicle Forecasting at Auto Forecast Solutions, told Automotive News last year. And with advances in battery technology and motor technology, they're getting more mileage out of a charge and making vehicles bigger. So the pricing and the battery range can move up a step and basically replace the Bolt with a smaller version of the Equinox. GM plans to start making the Silverado EV this year at the Detroit plant it calls Factory Zero. Shifting the Orion plant to Silverados and Sierras from Bolts will allow the company to make as many as 600,000 electric pickups annually. The Bolt sales and image were hampered by a 2021 recall linked to battery fires. GM cut Bolt prices by about $6,000 last year in preparation for the 2023 launch of the Chevrolet Equinox EV, which will use Ultium batteries and have a starting price about $30,000. That's less than the Bolt cost before the price cut. In our next story, Chrysler is recalling 131,700 2021 Ram 1500 vehicles in North America supplied with a 5.7-liter e-torque engine for an engine stall risk. The powertrain control module software may create an incorrect fuel mixture in the engine which can stall the engine. An engine shutdown can cause a vehicle to crash without warning, according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. It's estimated that about 100% of these vehicles have the defect, NHTSA said. An investigation was opened January 20th. As of March 30th, one accident and no injuries were reported in relation to the defect. Owners will be notified by mail beginning June 2nd, 2023. Dealers will update the PCM calibration software without charge. Well, that's it for this edition of Auto Talk. I'm Dave Kenny. Stay tuned to Oxford Community Television.
There's a lot of history to Oxford. Hidden around every corner, deep in every crack, and sometimes right in front of you, waiting to be discovered. If you just dig a little, you'll find the great history of our beautiful town. Welcome to historic Oxford.
Back with you for Oxford Sports. Oxford Boys Baseball show the Oxford Middle of the OAA Red playing 500 ball right now with a 2-2 record. Shared with crosstown rival Lake Orion at 2-2. West Bloomfield sits on top of the league at 5-2. The school division varsity baseball team enjoyed a sweep over Berkeley at home on Saturday. The Bats came alive with the Wildcats outscored the Bears in a doubleheader overall. The score of 28-11. Again, the Oxford baseball team trying to feel their own. Bloomfield Hills used to be a couple of big innings in the with 11 runs each. 2 games at the Oakland OAA crossover doubleheader against Oxford on Thursday. That was the 20th of April, winning a 11-6 and 11-9. The run win streak of 7 games. That, of course, in ladies softball, I should say. Girls soccer, both the Oxford girls soccer teams were victorious on Friday as they defeated Fenton to extend their undefeated records. The varsity is now 6-0-1. JV sits at 5-0-1. This, again, a pretty good season for the both teams. Girls lacrosse, the varsity enjoyed a 14-1 win over the West Bloomfield on Saturday to improve their record to 6-2. JV is at 5-2 overall, the 6-3-1 to versus the crosstown rival Lake Orion. Boys lacrosse, both teams, varsity and JV lacrosse teams, are now 4-1 each. After convincing wins against Troy on Saturday, the varsity had to come from behind 16-10. The victory there. The JV won their contest with a score of 15-2. And in girls tennis, Oxford is tied at the top of the with Avondale, with 2 Farmington and Ferndale and Southfield all struggling to get a hold of that. Again, they're tied for the top in ladies tennis. Oxford High School boys golf played their first tournament of the season. It was a weather-filled event. We've again played with tough conditions both days. They played in the rain, snow, sleet and hail, and blistering cold. Again, they finished 13th out of 15. Although they have a lot of work ahead of them, they said they felt confident in what they were doing. Oxford varsity boys golf coach Tony Frias and Chase Mayer had 78. Noah Benson at 89. Blake Denning shot at 91. Luke Denning shot at 92. Golf League meet at Farmington, the country club, another tough start to the season with cold weather. The boys stayed focused, worked on their conditions. They placed 5th out of 6 teams. Although the score didn't show, the players are slowly improving each day. Again, the two low shooters was Tommy Trebovich and Noah Benson. Again, they're quite happy with their results there. Oxford was very well represented in the 127th running of the famed Boston Marathon. That was on April 17th. Oxford runners Jacqueline Eldridge and her friend Leah Noss competed and completed their first Boston Marathon. They were just 2 of almost 30,000 athletes from 100 countries to compete this year. In June of 2022, both Noss and Eldridge qualified for Boston at the Charlevoix Marathon. Over the past several months, they have trained together. They both said they do 26.2 for the 26.2 mile Boston Marathon. Eldridge finished the race at 3:40.43. Noss finished at 4 hours, 19 minutes flat. Both runners are also part of the 42 Strong Tate Meir Foundation. Again, that was founded by the Meir family after Tate was one of the 4 students who killed on the 30th of November. Eldridge has been an adult leader for about a year. Noss is currently training for her daily lives and wives and for mothers. She's also a corporate event planner and married to Jeff. They have an 8-year-old son named Will Eldridge. Eldridge is an Oxford High School graduate of Oxford Community Schools teacher. Currently, she's a cardiac ICU RN and nursing clinical instructor at the local college. She is married to Jason Eldridge, and they have 2 little children, Lucas and Lily. They are a third. There was a third runner from Oxford that we weren't able to get a hold of. That was Veronica Acquire. She's 37, who again we were not able to contact. In fact, our own station manager, Terry Stiles, OCTV station manager Terry Stiles, she makes it a regular part of her year to attend the Boston Marathon, not as a runner, but as part of the hospitality crew. It's always something great in her life. We thank all the victorious runners and contributors to the Boston Marathon. That wraps it up. A lengthy sportscast. We'll be back. Dave Kenny's got something else, and I know I'll close it all out with the last story. We're back in a minute on OCTV.
Welcome to Science in the News. I'm Dave Kenny, and this story is taken from New Scientist. For animals that weigh more than a ton, the difficulty of staying cool while traveling over long distances is the key limiting factor for their speed, regardless of whether they run, swim, or fly, researchers have found. The findings suggest that global warming will be an even bigger problem for large animals than previously thought. If our model is correct, larger animals will have to reduce their activity in general, or they will have to shift towards more nocturnal behavior, says Alexander Dyer at the German Center for Integrative Biodiversity Research in Leipzig. Dyer and his colleagues started by compiling a database of the maximum sustained speeds of more than 500 species of animal, from insects and fish to whales and elephants. They included only studies of freely moving animals in the wild based on, for instance, video recordings, radar, or tracking devices, and excluded studies of captive animals. They found that traveling speeds increased as animals became larger until their mass reached 1,000 kilograms, after which speeds leveled off and began to decrease. The team looked at several possible explanations and concluded that a simple model estimating how much animals would have to slow down to avoid overheating could explain the shape of the curve. The issue is that muscles are fundamentally very inefficient, says Dyer. For every 100 joules of chemical energy that gets pumped into your muscles, 70 of those joules are just turned into heat. Small animals can rapidly lose this excess heat because of their higher surface area to volume ratio, but for large animals, this heat becomes a major issue. This seems to be just as much of a problem for swimming animals, even though their bodies can shed heat faster in water than in air. Dyer thinks this is because large marine animals, such as whales, have lots of insulation to keep them warm in a resting state. Heat dissipation is a property of the animal rather than the medium they move in, he says. I think the team makes a compelling argument that large-bodied animals face an additional metabolic constraint on their maximum speed related to overheating, says Walter Jetz at Yale University. This is an important basic insight, but it also has conservation relevance. As human activities increase the distance animals need to travel to get from one foraging patch to another, large-bodied species, which often are already highly threatened, might be in particular peril. No living flying animal weighs much more than 15 kilograms. But many flying pterosaurs were larger than this, so shedding excess heat would have been more of an issue for them. That might explain why many had enormous head crests, says Dyer. I would speculate that they had a role in thermoregulation. While rising temperatures are particularly challenging for large animals, staying cool is becoming a problem even for smaller animals as the planet warms. Some animals are evolving smaller bodies to help them lose heat faster in response. Some members of the team have previously looked at how size relates to animals' all-out speed over short distances. They concluded that the maximum speeds of large animals aren't limited by the ability of muscles and bones to survive the forces involved, as previously suggested, but by the time it takes to accelerate. During sprints, muscles rely on stored energy rather than aerobic respiration, as during long distances, and large animals run out of energy before they hit their theoretical maximum speeds. Well, that's it for this edition of Science in the News. I'm Dave Kenny.
Do you love local sports? Whether it's Oxford High School or Parks and Rec, you can buy copies of each game. To purchase your copy, call us at 248-628-9658 or give us an email at manager@occtv.org or talk to us at the next game. Hopefully we'll see you there.
Welcome back in our segment called The Last Story, a game that means so much more. Last week, the Oxford baseball team held on to the Oxford Strong Classic Trophy for 3 days before having to turn it over to Clarkston. On April 18th, the Wolves traveled to Oxford to play Game 1 of 3, a series at Oxford with the Oxford Strong Classic Trophy. Last season, Oxford won the series and the right to hold it. The trophy completed recently, so on Tuesday, the first time it was presented to the Wildcats behind the pitching of Owen Schill, game one, 2-0, with Schill pitching a no-hitter. Logan Marshall had a 2-run homer for the game, only scores the two next days saw Oxford drop the next two games to Clarkson 2-9 and 1-4 in game two. Drake Krosick pitched 3 innings, striking out 4 batters in game 3. Max Lovins went 2 for 3 at the plate, and Brody was 2 for 4 with an RBI. According to Oxford coach Dave Herrick, the Oxford Strong Classic was a brainchild of the Clarkston baseball team Chris Buzin. Buzin won at an auction a pair of cleats worn by Clarkston graduate Max Bain, who held the pair of cleats specifically made to honor Oxford. Bain, who graduated from Oxford in Clarkston in 2015, is now pitching AA ball for the Chicago Cubs Tennessee Smokies team, and funds from the auction were donated to #42Strong to benefit the Tate Myre Foundation, a game that means so much more. With that, we thank the news gathering source of the Oakland Press, Oxford Leader, Oxford Township Facebook page. Photo credits go out to CJ Carnacchio. The Oxford Leader, OCTV, can be viewed on Spectrum Charter Channel 191, Channel 99 on the AT&T Uverse system, YouTube, Rumble, Facebook. You can even download the Roku app and watch OCTV programming there. I do from my home in Madison Heights. OCTV is also available for local groups and for public service announcements. If you have a show idea, maybe you want to volunteer, give the office a call at 248-628-9658. Thanking, and once again, always thanking producer-director Kyle Snage, videographer Al Campbell, editor Marissa Hariska, also program coordinator Dan Weiss, program director Connie Miller, station manager Terry Stiles, just back from the Boston Marathon. For everyone at OCTV, I'm Jim Hughes, hoping you have a safe week, and I invite you back next time. And again, we will take a look at Oxford News this week.